So as usual, I'm doing a quick live stream, not particularly advertised, although I have advertised it to um, people in the live stream this is responding to. So I've advertised it to people who commented in the last live stream on this topic. Will help be forever on the Ahmadi Fact Checker blog YouTube channel. And I'll make this short. I do this like as a live stream just because kind of lazy way rather than recording than uploading, but also as an opportunity if anybody somehow gets onto the stream, I'll respond to them. Let's do this quickly. So basically, I had a discussion where I was a little bit lazy in terms of doing my research, and there was one argument made that uh, made me question the argument I gave, which is good. This never ever happened before, that a decent argument was given based, I don't think so, in all the discussions I've had with Bashir, um, based on the Quran, rather than just sending me random ad hominem uh, arguments. Anyway, so let's see how quickly we can do this. Um, Actually, I will unshare this. And so if you don't know who I am, I'm Khalid Safir. That's my name in the bottom corner that way. And I'm a Londoner now living in Jordan, so this is my garden. So since that has popped up, let's look at that video and share the tab. So if I stop that, maybe remove. What do I need to do? Present another thing? Stop screen share, present, share screen. So I will show you the document, which is linked below. I've seen somebody already looking at it, which summarizes all the things I'm going to say. It's a revised document compared to what I said before. It wasn't that I was completely wrong, but it wasn't the best argument. And it's been a little bit complicated. I had to go through lexicons and stuff like that. But anyway, let's see. Okay, let's do this. So this is the video that I'm responding to. Is hell forever? Um, and always appreciate. I'm going through the. I made a comment here that I appreciate Bashir for being polite, but also being intellectually honest enough, I would say, to give a link to my document here, this Google Doc, where I've, you know, fixed also my arguments as well. So do check it out if that's what you're looking at as well. But the revised or best version of it is already in the description, linked in the description of this video. So that's what I said here. So basically what I'm doing is I'm quickly responding to this, plus giving the argument that I will also give when I debate Bashir, hopefully. What day is it today? I mean, the Wednesday coming. We'll go through it together. There's no point just debating by myself, right? It's pretty weak. But anyway, may Allah reward you, Bashir. Yes, may Allah reward Bashir. Keep it up. You're doing a fantastic job. I think you're promoting the message of Islam Ahmadiyya, by losing in debates again and again. But, for anybody who's honest, they'll see that. So I said that basically. What else? Brother Asif was making some great points. I called it to cut him out. I think Brother Asif was the guy who came at the end when I told him lots of times that we have to finish. We're way overdue. And Bashir is at work and stuff like that. And he understood. But I think Faiza's a bear, like just being a cheerleader, Pfizer. It's not really a proper argument. That's just like it's like you're already being a liar by not giving a decent argument there. That was not true. What was happening. And anyway, better than just saying it was great points. It's more intellectual to actually give what the argument was that he was giving that I couldn't answer. I don't know, something in Urdu, can be bothered to read that. Allah Park. I mean, Allah bless you, I guess. But anyway, it's good. Okay, nice. Next one. Everything Khalid says is from his own whims and desires. Well, he thinks so, whims and desires, and then he contradicts himself and he says logic. So either it's whims or desires, feelings, or it's logic. Which one is it? Are you against logic? Because the Quran is based on logic. How can you tell the difference between truth and falsehood if you don't use logic? So pretty weak, and it trumps the logic of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad. Trumps. That's just, and then happy smiley face. Like he probably didn't. That's called selective hearing, because what Bashir said was that Mirza Ghulam Ahmad had one opinion and then he changed his opinion, and that's called intellectual honesty. If you change your opinion when you find out different facts or Allah tells him otherwise, with facts, of course. That's what I explained there. Allah is all merciful and severe in punishment. So this is half an argument. At least it's better than no argument. Okay, that Habib Kija, whatever. Anyway, spun. So he said Allah is severe in punishment. So Allah is so severe in punishment, more severe than any other person, by punishing forever for limited sins. So by that uh, measure, Allah is the most merciless. And the Quran always starts every chapter with Allah is the most merciful. So he's saying he's both the most merciful and the most merciless. So it's not really, you're no longer merciful if you're the most merciless as well, if you counted it. So that's what I basically said there. There will be they will not enter Jannah until the camel enters the eye of a needle. So I mean, this is not it's not, you know, I don't know. It's not a completely useless argument, but be aware that the Quran talks about the whole universe being folded, wrapped up again. So if it's like how it started, a closed up mass in a tiny place, then you know, then the whole universe essentially would be able to get, you know, certainly a camel. If the whole universe can be in a tiny closed up mass as it started, or wrapped up like essentially like a black hole, then quite easily a camel will go through the eye of a needle. So never. So it's not a bad argument, but there's a counter argument. And it's not really dealing with the actual arguments I gave. These are just sidestepping the arguments, I would say. The argument I was essentially saying is, why does Allah distinguish in terms of length of time between heaven and hell whenever they're compared side by side? Not when they're written separately. That's a fair point. Okay, but it's not a very strong point. But it was a strong enough point for me to research. This is what I'm going to be talking about in a minute. Research more and give a better argument. I always respect, well, to some extent, more than others at least, Muslim 5067. He does give stronger arguments than everybody else most of the time. So maybe Allah bless him, mashallah, you know, for his intelligence, for giving better arguments than others. But also may Allah guide him to true Islam, for making that effort more than others. So he says, he gives two arguments, one here, one there. But this one is, Allah uses emphasis many times. Allah says, after hardship comes ease, after hardship comes ease. Yeah. I'm not sure if it exactly repeats everything the same, but I have to check that again. But basically, he's essentially right. There is repetition. Okay. And there's repetition of all kinds in different scenarios. So, but what he's done, he doesn't realize that he's actually increased his problems, because if he thinks it's like, if he as a Muslim, he has to be able to explain, you know, the Quran says it's perfect and it's got, according to him, extra things, superfluous things you don't need. But I don't think it's superfluous. I would say that for that particular example, very briefly, I said that there is meaning in repeating those, the focus on the difficulties of the Muslims, because they will have difficulties. There'll be difficulties and ease at the first and second stage of Islam. That's why I think is about. Actually, yeah, that's my comment. So I said that there. And then the second argument he gave is if Allah uses the same words for heaven and hell. So I agreed already to this. So it's not exactly intellectually honest to not point out that I've actually agreed to that my argument is not solid, right? So, but anyway, I gave a good response. I gave a better response here, but anyway, so yeah, the words Khalidin and suddenly gone out of my mind. Should I just check quickly? What was it? Abadan, yeah, both essentially mean long time or forever or whatever, right? So they do actually both mean long time and forever, depending on context, and I'll talk about that context in a bit. Anyway, I do tell him, well done, good point again, mashallah. I say, I am about to do a live stream, which I'm doing right now, and basically the counter argument is that which I'll show in a minute, chapter 11, verse 109, or as Sunni Muslims don't think the Quran is perfect and they think Bismillah is just some extra thing, so they say 108 instead of 109. So in that verse, it doesn't make sense to say that the words Khalidin, Khalid means forever, because God then says something, let's just say, that proves, well, God just says something that is either superfluous or disproves that Khalid means forever in the context given. Okay, it can mean forever as in it feels like forever, and it can sometimes mean forever according to the lexicon, but who knows? The lexicons aren't perfect. The lexicons are dependent on examples that they have seen, right? So yeah, okay. Anyway, then pointless argument here, just trying to be some sort of like say some non-Muslims won't even touch hellfire. Allah knows best. Well, I don't know. It's just okay. Yes. Ahmadis are the true Muslims. That's nice. Thanks. Okay. I don't agree with. I think that's some sort of insight. I don't agree with that. I already said that to Qadiani television. I love everybody, including Yatali Qadiani television. I just in the Quran it says you have to bear witness even against your own family, your own people, whatever. So that's what I'm doing there. But I'm not hating, and I'm certainly not perfect myself to criticize. But yeah, it's just not right to do that, I think. As Ahmadis, we're the only sect with a Khalifa. That's a really strong point. I've made that many times in Speaker's Corner. Like, why are we given preferential special treatment? And also fulfilling many prophecies when we're doing that. Given that we're the only group with a Khalifa, that unity is very powerful. I'll probably do a discussion about that at some point. Actually, I probably will be debating a Sunni Muslim about the power or efficiency of Ahmadi Muslims because of our unity. So we do many more things that the Sunni Muslims, who are essentially a massively bigger group than us, can't do because we're united and they're not. So yeah, Bashir has weird features. I said, my brother, that's not a good thing to do. We don't need to go down to that level of ad hominem arguments, insults to people's appearances. We have such strong arguments that we don't need to go there. Okay, so let's remove that and present my, whoops, what did I just press? Share screen. And then will hell be forever revised document. Okay, let's whiz through it really fast. I do always start with what's the point of talking about this? Because firstly, if we understood Islam better, then we wouldn't have silly ideas of Islam. Actually, I don't know what this says. Can't really read this. Might have to read it again. But also, it's putting people off who are studying Islam for the first time. They have a logic that they can only follow their logic, right? And if there's a illogical understanding or teaching of the Quran or translation of the Quran, that will put logical people off. And Allah gave people that logic to use, and Allah teaches through logic in the Quran. So you can't say we shouldn't use logic. In fact, when Muslims debate Christians and other groups, they use logic. So why do they stop using logic when you know when when they have to understand the Quran? Anyway, so if Khalidina fiha, here's a quick argument that demolishes everything in one go. If Khalidina fiha means being in a place forever, as in verse 109, there is no need to say a gift that shall not be cut off. It makes it superfluous, okay, unnecessary. Okay, so do check it out in the. I always give a link just in case people are confused about the numbering and all that kind of stuff. Just go there, you'll see what I'm talking about. Basically, it says in chapter 1109 or 108 according to Sunni Muslims, but as for those who prove fortunate, they shall be in heaven, abiding or staying in there for as long as the heavens and the earth will endure, accepting what thy Lord may will, a gift that shall not be cut off. That shall not be cut off, but you've already said it's forever, so why would you say it shall not be cut off? So it clearly tells you either the Quran is not perfect, which as a Muslim you shouldn't accept. Therefore, you have to say, okay, maybe it doesn't mean. And I do go to the lexicons. Lexicons are the detailed dictionaries where it explains all the different meanings that you're going to have of certain words. And these words, I'm talking about Khalid, essentially I go through, and abadan, abada, I go through below. I'll do that in a bit. But some basic other logical arguments. First of all, the Quran says that Allah is the most gracious, the most merciful. So He can't punish infinitely for limited sins. Otherwise, He's not the most merciful. In fact, everybody would be more merciful because nobody really punishes infinitely for limited sins. So Allah is supposed to be the most merciful. What else? Just doesn't make sense, really, right? So we have to use our logic. That's what we have to go by. Otherwise, you don't know from fact. You can't distinguish fact from fiction. Anyway, also Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in Sahih Bukhari that essentially, do check this out, but I'm just whizzing through this. That heaven is not forever because it will be empty at one point. Okay, when the Quran compares, so here's two examples. When the Quran compares heaven and hell, like when it's like two adjacent verses, they're next to each other, one after the other, or pretty much one after the other. Then, so here's example one, which I pointed out in the first. Was this the first one? No, it's the same one. Basically, 108 and 109 both talk about that. What does it say? Abiding therein, so long as the heavens and the earth. Talking about, I should probably say what this is talking about. Hell, abiding therein. Let's put hell. It's talking about hell. It mentions that in the previous verse. I don't know why I put capital H. Anyway, hell. So as long as the heavens and the earth, surely Allah does what He pleases. Paraphrasing a little bit to speed things up. But as for those who prove fortunate, they shall be in heaven, abiding in as long as the heavens and the earth endure, just like it said before, accepting, which exactly the same as before. The only difference is a gift that not shall be cut off. So, a focus on the time difference. So emphasizing that this is infinite when this one doesn't have that same difference or pointed out in terms of time. So why would God confuse people if that if what I'm saying is incorrect. It seems to be, just if you're reasonable and honest, that seems to be the obvious argument to say, oh, okay, sure, hell is really bad, it's really long. And if what I basically will be explaining in a minute is that basically the word Khalidina seems to mean in the context, and you'll see why I'm saying it, something that feels like forever, but it's not really forever, or feels really, really long time. And also, abadan means like it is actually not just feels, but actually is really long in actual time, as well. So it's both, because there are some things that um, are really long but feel short. Okay, the Quran, I think, talks about, I'm not sure where it says, I have to get the reference, but it might be a trillion years before our souls go through the barzakh period, like the transfer period between this life after this death to heaven or hell. But it'll feel like 2 or 3 days. I think that's either hadith or Quran. I have to check, I can't remember, but a lot of people know about that stuff. So you can feel, it can be really long and not feel forever, or as the Quran points out, I think, from my understanding and from the lexicon and the references I've been looking at, it means something that feels long and is long. They're not necessarily one and the same thing. So yeah, there's an example. Okay, so was that's example one, and then example two is same thing which I pointed out in the beginning of uh, the in the last live stream, same sort of thing. In one you've just got Khalidina, and the other one's got Khalidina fiha abadan, right? So an extra word, like really long time for heaven. Okay, and what's it called? Just Khalidina, long time, for hell. So that's a, so of course it can mean forever. It doesn't have to. Um, you never know. It might even, well, you can't contradict another verse. So I was going to say maybe it stops, but then I thought I just read a verse that says it won't be stopped. So anyway, it is interesting how it's talked about. It's like it'd be more intellectually honest to start off from the point saying that, sure, heaven seems to be longer, and it won't be cut off, but there seems to be some other weird descriptions that, about like, until God so wills or something. Where was it? What does it say? Accepting which your Lord might please. Oh, I forgot. I have discussed this with a friend, but I can't remember what it means. Oh, and I'm rushing through. I'm just covering the basics. There was something very interesting about this. I have to ask my friend about this, who's learned Arabic and goes through lexicons all the time. What does that mean? I discussed it with him. Or maybe I can't think about it right now because I'm rushing through the core ideas because I'm trying to keep this live stream short. Anyway, Lane's lexicon, famous lexicon. I provide a link to the search Khalad, essentially Khalid. People don't know there's like a root system, so you to these words. So anyway, there's a lot of different meanings, and it's very complex, referring to different dictionaries. And also, I'm not particularly an expert on this. My friend who does go through dictionaries, I mean, lexicons, he explained to me briefly, but I'm not that much of an expert. But anyway, it does say basically dwelt for a long time. There are also references that it could mean for forever, perpetually. But I want to give you an idea of what these words can mean. So, an example of what a concrete meaning, let's say, of the word Khalid, Khalidat or something, whatever, over here, is just these three portions or three stones used for cooking, right? Okay, here's the three stones that were used by the Bedouins. So this is a meaning that they used. and they understood as Khalid. Khalid can also mean mountains and stuff like that, refer to mountains. So these stones are definitely not going to be there forever, right? They'll be knocked by somebody eventually, some camel and walking in the desert. But for the Bedouins, it seemed a really long time because their houses, or relative to their tent houses, which are just there for a short while and then they'll move on, these things just stayed there a lot longer. So it's relative. So it feels like something that feels like a long time based on our experience. On the other hand, I also search for abada, abadan, abada is the root of abadan and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so that has some interesting ideas that it means time in a long time in the absolute sense. So it really means long time. It's not just like it feels like it. Also, it can mean things that are not particularly long. So like wild animals. So there are limitations on its meaning as well. It's got I should say it's got a, what's it called? What's the word? It's got a spectrum of lengths of meaning. It refers to a spectrum of not particularly long to extremely long, and it's relative as well to I don't know, people's experience as well. But anyway, it seems to be possibly longer because it refers to time not just based on feelings and experience, but also to do with, like I mentioned here, absolute time. Okay, so yeah, so that would be the reason possibly why you would bother with the word abada after Khalid, which roughly means the same thing. You should be, if you're intellectually honest, you should be interested in finding out why would the Quran use two words that seem to have the same meaning. So stay away from colloquial Arabic, which is spoken in Arabic, which changes over time. We have to talk about the Fusha, the real Arabic. Okay. Anyway, except the way. Okay, so this is the one that made me think. So, oh, okay, it's talking about Khalidina and Abada. Oh, and it's talking about hell. So that kind of broke my earlier argument. If Abada means forever, it can mean forever, but um, well, based on what I said earlier on, God always seems to make the forever um, of heaven longer, or emphasizes the length of time more, and gives the impression it's longer. Heaven is longer than heaven. So if this was forever, both meant forever, forever, that would be superfluous, first of all, but it would also be crazy in the sense that the heaven, the infinity of heaven is longer than the infinity of hell. That doesn't really make sense. Anyway, so my argument, I suppose, if I didn't say it already, is that only when, so first of all, it doesn't mean forever. It just means extremely, extremely long time. But it's only written like this when it's written by itself, not in comparison to heaven. Every time is hell is described in comparison to heaven, heaven is described as longer. And that makes logical sense, unless you think God is the most merciless. Do try to answer my arguments rather than ignore them when responding, please. That's intellectually honest. And if you can't, maybe you should be an Ahmadi Muslim, because if you've seen all the different debates, I have far stronger arguments than the Sunni Muslims. Do check out all my videos on my channel, the Old Speaker's Corner ones as well. You can see how desperately wrong all the other Muslims are on all sorts of verses of the Holy Quran. But you might not be aware of it, so it's always good to research. You might be surprised. Okay, that's it. Thank you for watching. Do comment and I'll try to respond to your comments.